Hi YouTubers, today I'm making Turkish flatbread for you, and I wrote everything down on my laptop so I don't forget any ingredients for you. So here's what you will need. For the starter dough you will need 2 sachets of dry yeast, or it's 1 tablespoon. Then you need 4 tablespoons of flour from the main dough, which I'll tell you later after this. It's about 2.2 pounds, and you need 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, 1 cup of warm or lukewarm water. Now for the ingredients. For the main dough, it gives you about 3 loaves of bread. You need 2.2 pounds or 1 kg of white bread flour, 1 pre-made starter dough, which we're gonna make in a moment, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, and 16.9 ounces or 500 milliliters of fresh whole milk. Or if you can't take the milk, use water. Works just the same. 1.5 tablespoons of salt, which we will add at the very end of mixing the dough, because the yeast, if the yeast comes too close with the salt in direct contact, it can kill the yeast and the dough won't rise as much. So we will put in the salt at the end. Then you will need 9 tablespoons of sesame seeds. It's about 9 tablespoons, more or less, because it's for the topping of the bread, and usually it's around 9 tablespoons. Then you need 2 to 3 egg yolks. Depends on the size of the egg, and we will mix that with about 2 tablespoons of milk to make the finishing, to the gloss of to get the correct crust on the bread. And then that's basically it. We can get started with the starter dough first. So I have 1 cup of lukewarm water here, and I've previously already weighed out the flour for the main dough. That's 2.2 pounds, and I'm just gonna take 4 tablespoons of that into the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll take the dry yeast and add it right in there into the mix. And we will need 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. I have some organic brown sugar here, 1.5, and we'll just mix it up. If it's too cold, the yeast will just fall asleep, and if it's too hot, the yeast will die, and that's not gonna work either. So it has to be like lukewarm water, touch warm, not too hot, not too cold. That's how I see it. So when you have that mixed up properly, you just cover it with some cling film and put it into a warm place for 1 hour and leave the yeast to do its job. It's gonna bubble and do its stuff, and then we're gonna go on to the next step, which is the main dough. As you can see, the dough has risen all the way to the top of the measuring jug. It was about to the third of the cup, and now it's the jug. Now it's all full with the starter dough. And what we'll do is we have our 2 pounds of white bread flour here, and we'll just add it in there to make it maneuverable. I'll give it a quick stir it around, and now I'll just pour it all in there. All the goodness of the yeast. It's all foamy. As you can see, it's all foamy and goopy. But now we can add our olive oil, 4 tablespoons of olive oil in there. The 500 milliliters or the milk. And stir it all up. I know it's kind of liquidy, but that's the dough, that's how it has to be. That's how I make my recipe. And when you have all that mixed up, all the flour is gone into the liquid and it's all mixed together, you will add the salt. Only at this stage you will add the salt. When you have it like this, you can already add the salt in there. That's okay, there's some bits of flour left, but I'm gonna do that now. So add your 1.5 tablespoons of salt. And at this stage I'm just gonna use my fingers and knead it. Knead it for a good 10-15 minutes. If you have a machine, you just let it run for 3 minutes on low and then let it run for another minute on high, depending on your machine. Always just fold to the inside. And when you have it all like this, incorporated and everything together, just cover it with a towel, kitchen towel, and leave it to rest for another hour, and then I'll see you later. And in the meantime, we can make the glazing or the egg yolk milk mixture that we will use later on. So you have to separate the egg white from the egg yolk, and we will only need the egg yolk. And there you go, you've got the egg yolk, and you don't need the shell. There we go. That's gonna be too loud. And we need about 2 tablespoons of milk, should be enough. Oops. That should suffice. Stir it up. And that should be good enough for later. After the hour is done, your dough should have about doubled in size, and now at this stage you should preheat your oven. And now all we're gonna do is take out the bread loaf, put some flour out on a table so you can knead your dough on the table. if I can get it out. Now this is a really sticky dough, but this is not gonna matter after we have kneaded the dough. It's gonna be fine. So just take your dough, stretch it, fold it in, stretch it, fold it in. And that's how I always do it. Stretch it and fold it in. And fold it in. Don't do it too much, just after you've done that. Take it like this. Tug it all underneath. And then try to make a sausage. Then we'll make 3 parts out of it. So what I'll do is I'll just pinch it here. So that's 1. Pinch it again. And that's another 2. Then we'll knead each of them again. Just fold it in. Pull and fold it in. And turn it around. Tug it in. And I'll just do this for all of the rest. Now for something that I didn't include in the recipe, but I'm gonna show you anyways, I use cornmeal for the bottom of the bread. So all I'm doing is take a handful of cornmeal and just distribute it all over the table where I'm working. I'm not a pizza chef or whatever, I'm just gonna put it in whatever way I want. Like this. Working it with my fist and the palm of my hand to get the dough bigger. Pulling and stretching, making it even. If you have a rolling pin, you can use that. I don't have one right now, so that's how I do it. But anyways, you find the center of the bread, and then about 1 inch apart you make lines down the not down the center but either side, about 1 inch apart, just with your fingertips. Try to get in there. And the same thing across. If you can do it better than me, very well. And then the same thing about 1 inch away from the outside of the bread. Like this. And this way you can also get the bread bigger at the same time, spread it out more. So to get that traditional look of the bread, the flat bread. One thing that I forgot to tell you just now was that you have to get it to about 1 to 1.5 inch thickness before you put that traditional dough signature into it. Now for the sesame, all you do is you drizzle all over it, just the way you want it, as many seeds as you want, as evenly as possible. That's how I do it. And that's this. Now I don't have a brush for cooking, so I'm just using a fork, but all you do is you take some of the egg and milk mixture and you just spread it all over the cake, or the cake, what am I saying, the bread, as evenly as possible. One vital part, I've put some tin foil around the baking tray, and I put some olive oil on the baking tray. Instead of using melted butter or whatever fat or grease you're using, olive oil would be better because it increases that taste of olives in the bread that we want. And very important, you need to cover the bread with some tin foil as well, but you need to leave enough room for the bread to rise. So if you have a baking tray with a lid, that would be perfect right now, but I just don't have the equipment. You could try it out yourself. I'm doing it my way now. You'll see it after I'm done. Put the bread into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes at gas mark 8 or 220 degrees Celsius. And after 15 minutes, take the cover off, or your lid, if you have a lid on your baking tray. So 15 minutes are up, and I can take off the tin foil. Let's have a look if I don't burn myself. But now we have to put it into the oven for another. There we go. Golden brown Turkish flatbread. And just to make sure, you have to have the oven at gas mark 8. That's 220 degrees Celsius. And you leave it covered with a lid, or like I had with the tin foil, for 15 minutes in the oven, and then you just take it off and leave it to bake for another 5 to 10 minutes. Have a look into the oven after 5 minutes, and if it's to your liking, golden brown like this is perfect. And then you just take it out, leave it cool off, because that is very important. The bread is still baking on the inside, and after the 10 minutes it's okay to cut it or tear it, as I like to do. And yeah, I have some coleslaw and some tzatziki here, and let me just show you how I do it. So you can just tear off a piece like this, and if you have a good bread knife, cut into it, open it up like a pocket, like this, open it up, and then you take your coleslaw and just put a good bit of coleslaw inside it, and some tzatziki, fill it right up, and then enjoy. A great party bread as well. And also nice just to dip it into the tzatziki as well if you don't like the coleslaw. Best thing you can eat by far, and really healthy as well. And one other thing, if you can't take any milk, use water. There is a difference with milk. You might want to try it out. So rate my videos, thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't done so. I'll see you in the next video.